Hello and welcome to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for Friday, March 21st. We got 10 games on FanDuel, 7 on Draftkings, and we're going to dig into it. I'm your host, Tyler Wiemann. Now come join us at LionStar, $39.99 per month or $239.99 for the year. Come join us. Great deal. Best deal in the DFS space, and let's go get it now. On to projections. We got 7 games on DK, as I said, 10 games on FanDuel, and starting position by position. Point guard, Derek White, 29% owned, highest owned point guard. He's 7K. There's no Jaylen Brown. Boston 15-point favorites here. I love Derek White. I love the situation he's in, with the scary part being that the Jazz are in total tank mode and just playing everybody 24 minutes a game pretty much. And the most likely outcome is the Celtics just roll over the Jazz, even though that it is in Utah. So I like Derek White. Very rare that I'm going to, predict a blowout or use that in my projecting of the teams and the players, but that's my biggest worry. And I think that if you are going to play some Boston guys, it's probably makes some sense to play some Jazz, because the most likely situation is they're able to stay in the game for a little bit. There are some value guys that are going to be on the court. If, a guy surprises and plays 30 minutes for the Jazz, they stay into it, he goes off. Like, it's not that crazy to think, but all in all, I think it's going to be kind of hard for the Jazz to stay in it. I am definitely coming under the field 29%, but I don't mind a little bit. Jose Alvarado, 4,900, 25% owned versus the Timberwolves. He got the start last game, played 26 minutes. It's the Timberwolves again, so I would expect he plays again, and I don't mind starting him if that is the situation with the current outlook of the Pelicans, where they have so many injuries and they really need somebody to step up. Russell Westbrook, if he starts, I love him. That it would be that Jamal Murray is out, but Murray is questionable. Jokic is out. Really don't know Murray's status right now. I could see it going either way. Westbrook's interesting. I don't like him coming off the bench, but if there's no Murray and he's the starter, then I'm very interested. Jared Butler, 5,700, 19% owned versus the Spurs. No surprise, I love going against the Spurs lately. Butler likely starts, likely plays some solid minutes. We have him at 28. I think that's fair. The 76ers, well, the stars are obviously gone. I think they still are going to have 10, 11 games, or 10, 11 players active in this game, so they can spread minutes around. I don't think he gets huge minutes, but it's a very good spot for a player that's been productive on a fantasy point per dollar standpoint, so I'm willing to get some for sure. Another blowout situation, SGA versus the Charlotte Hornets. Hornets are 20.5 point underdogs. SGA should absolutely roll here. My worry is that he only plays like 31, 32 minutes, but he should be able to do absolutely whatever he wants. And if this game for some reason stays close, which is highly doubtful, then SGA really, really could get a big ceiling here. Little interested in. It's really just playing off ownership. Him at 12%. When you have a guy like White in a very similar situation going super high owned, I'll take the low owned player of it with a huge upside. The other thing is, I think there's more value in other places, so I'm tending to pay up a little bit at point guard today. James Harden's another one I like, 9,600, 11% owned, huge upside versus the Grizzlies. Fast-paced game, big pace-up spot. Now, the Clippers are getting healthier, so it does bring that ceiling down for Harden, But in this spot, I don't mind getting a little James Harden. Cade Cunningham, 10.8K versus the Mavericks. Mavericks have been giving it up to point guards hugely. Cade has been going nuts, and it's likely going to be him going nuts to fuel the victory. They are 9-point favorites. There's some Dallas guys I'm interested in, but I don't mind some Cade. He's in a pretty good spot here. CJ McCollum, 7,300. Didn't do anything versus Minnesota last game. 18 shot attempts, though. That tells me he's probably going to be chucking the ball up a ton without Murray, pretty much everybody. So I don't mind some CJ. There's a big-time ceiling, but there's a little floor on it too. So take that with what you will. Point guard on DK, Alvarado, Hawkins, and Cassell. Hawkins, 3,200. It is unlikely he starts, but he probably does play 23 to 28 minutes off the bench at 3,200. That's very interesting to me. I don't mind getting some. Stephon Cassell, 6,700. It's fine. The one thing is that he's like a fantasy point per minute guy in a starting lineup. He's just not giving that same punch that he was off the bench that last few weeks of him being a bench player. But back in the starting lineup, he's consistent. I don't mind having a little bit. Not going to go hard on him. Shooting guard on FanDuel. Derek White, Anthony Edwards, Drew Holiday. Ant, 9,500, 21% owned. Obviously has the ceiling in a very good spot. I just have had a hard time paying for Ant when this team's all healthy and he doesn't have to do it. I don't mind a little bit, but I'm not going to go too hard on him. Drew Holiday, 5,900. I don't know what happened to Drew, but all of a sudden he's balling. So maybe he actually got healthy finally or something, but I don't mind a little Drew just because of how well he's been playing lately. Now, the issue here is we have a whole season of work of him not playing very well, not being very involved in the team. So unless there's been a big shift, I would expect him not being that involved. But hey, dude's been playing very, very well, and I can't argue that. Pivot-wise, Tumani Kamara, once again, it looks like Jeremy Grant won't play. With that, Kamara has 35-minute upside, and he's been pretty productive, and it's an interesting spot. Closest game spread-wise on the slate, decent total. I don't mind getting some. On the other side of that, Christian Braun, 5,900. No Jokic, so the ceiling is higher. Also, ceiling is higher. I don't mind getting some Christian Braun, especially if Murray is out. Quentin Grimes, 8K versus the Spurs. Absolutely great spot. Really hard to argue what he's been doing lately. He's at like 1.29 fantasy point per minute without Maxey, Embiid, George, and crew there. He is just straight up filling the stat sheet. So while I really do not think he is a 1.29 fantasy point per minute player, hard to argue the success. I don't mind getting a little Grimes here. I do worry about his minutes a little bit because they did say, a week or two ago that they wanted to limit his minutes from here on out. But they haven't really been able to because they have been shorthanded. I think this is a spot that they can keep him to 28, 32 minutes, something like that. Just because there's more healthy 76ers bodies. They really don't care about winning. So that's my one worry. But the ceiling is real, and he's been playing super well. Hard to argue that situation. Shooting guard on DK, Franz Wagner, Hawkins, Cassell. Wagner at 8,600 versus the Wizards. Super interesting to me. I do like him more than Banchero today. If this game stays close, Banchero has a real big ceiling. Hawkins we covered. Lonnie Walker at 4,400 is interesting. He is probable, so he should be back in the lineup. No telling what his minutes might be, but he has been very productive coming off the bench for this team. So I don't mind taking some shots there. Small forward, FanDuel, Banchero, Wagner, Edwards. Banchero, 9,200. I don't mind a little bit, but I do prefer Wagner today. 1K cheaper on FanDuel. And overall, Washington has been a tougher spot versus power forward than small forward. Anthony Edwards, we talked about. Jason Tatum, 10.5K. This game's going to have to stay close for Tatum to really go nuts. So if I'm playing Tatum, I'm probably playing somebody on the Jazz. Lonnie Walker, we covered. Kamara, Braun, Grimes, we covered. Denny, without Jeremy Grant, is a force. He has a way bigger ceiling, way higher minute ceiling, way more productive. He's at like 1.1 fantasy point per minute without Grant and Ayton there. It's the situation we have again. Denver Nuggets with no Jokic are much smaller. And with that, I just think there's a way higher ceiling with Denny at 8K. I'm still willing to pay it for it a little bit. Small forward on DK, Keldon, Wagner, and Asar Thompson. Keldon, 4,700 is super interesting. If they have Sochan in the starting lineup again, then there's a little more minutes available for Keldon. So that 26 could be 28, 4,700. He can be, a fantasy point per minute plus guy. So I don't mind a little bit of Keldon. Friends, we covered. Asar Thompson, 4,300. Here lies the issue with me. He just had this stretch of games where he goes 18 to 21 minutes. Then last time out plays 29. With Tobias Harris, they've been reluctant to give him too big of minutes. So if it's a situation where he's in 21, 22 minutes, I don't want to touch him. However, he's at 1.13 fantasy points per minute. He's in a decent matchup here. The ceiling is there if he plays, 26 plus to have a ton of him. But really no idea what his minutes are going to be. I would expect him to come in a little lower owned than this. I don't mind having a little bit. I'm not going to go too hard on him. I think it's more like the 20, 21 minute situation than the 29, but I could be wrong. Really have no idea what they're doing minute-wise. Power forward on FanDuel. Jeremy Shohan, 5,500, 30% owned. If he is starting at center, I absolutely love him. I played a lot of him last game. Didn't get there with it, but this is a much better matchup for him versus the 76ers, and I will play a lot of him if he's at center. Unfortunately for that, we're not going to go no at lock because it's an hour later than that first Orlando game. But I don't mind getting some. Tatum, we covered. Gordon, Denny, Santi Aldama, 5,400. I think this is too cheap. He came back last game, played 27 minutes. We can expect 28, 29 minutes, or 27, 28 minutes from him. He's very effective, high point per dollar guy, and power forward versus the Clippers coming off the bench isn't a bad spot to attack. Power forward on DK, Shohan, Keldon, Johnson, and Banchero covered them. Let's get over to center. Rudy Gobert, 6,200, 12% owned. My issue with the big booty Rudy here is that he just hasn't been playing very many minutes anymore. He's right around 30, 6,200. He's been under a fantasy point per minute for this season. He has had a couple runs where he played really well, but he's back into playing just not really that great. Now, it's a good spot, so I don't mind a little bit, but I'm not going to go too hard on him. Next, Donovan Clingan, 6K. He's playing right around 26 minutes. It's an interesting spot for him, but I do think this is a spot that he could get into foul trouble, which is one of the bummers with him. If they let him play 28, 30 minutes, he does have a big ceiling, but it's few and far between. Pivot-wise, Yusuf Nurkic, 4,400. You guys are going to think I'm nuts. He's barely playing. We haven't projected 21 minutes, but look at his starts. 28 minutes, 27, 19, 16, his very first game with this team. So we can throw that one out. But what does he do scoring-wise? 36, 35, and 43. From a fantasy point per dollar standpoint, without LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, he has been extremely effective. Also without Mark Williams, obviously. He has been extremely effective and been very, very high on the fantasy point per dollar standpoint. With that and the lack of centers I really like today, I'm finding myself going to a lot of value Yusuf Nurkic, and nobody's going there right now. I hope that stays this way because I don't mind some of him. Maybe that's also why I'm getting more SGA, but I find it as an interesting spot, and this team obviously uses the center position a decent amount. On to center on DK, Shohan, Nurkic, Kelly Olynyk. Nurkic at 3,700 is actually crazy to me on DK. He is high owned as he should be. Kelly Olynyk, 5,100 is super interesting. No Zion, so I think his minutes limit is a little bit higher. If you see, he played over 30 minutes in 2 of the last 3, really in 3 of the last 4. If he gets 30 minutes, he's going to look super interesting at this price. If you put him at like 28 minutes, he would look super interesting at this price. We have him at 25 right now. I don't mind getting some Olynyk and taking some shots on there. And that will do it for us today, guys. You guys have a good one. Hope you guys had a great week. We will be back on Monday. Let's make some money. And we have baseball starting next week, which is fun as well. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.